people, we the people would like you to know that wherever you go, we're right by your side.
Thank you guys so much for tuning back in to another episode of We the People. My name is Derek Butler. It has been an honor to sit down with some amazing people every other week and learn about their stories and hear some of the amazing work that they're doing in states across the country. Today I sit down with one of my good friends, Anré Washington, who's doing amazing things in the state of Georgia and is involved heavily in politics there. He currently works as an outreach manager at the Voices for Georgia's Children, where he's working every single day to ensure that the policies enacted in the state of Georgia do not affect Georgia's children negatively. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode.
My name is Anré Washington. I am originally from Hinesville, Georgia, but Atlanta is home. I am currently an outreach manager for Voices for Georgia's Children. I do coalition building and outreach for children's policy. So essentially, my organization helps put together the best and latest information and put that in front of legislators, state agencies, and decision makers to make sure that when it comes to kids, everybody has the best information possible to make the best and most appropriate decisions. So most of my days is spent building relationships with folks, managing relationships, getting information, compiling in a way that's consumable for your average person, so they know what policy decisions impact would be on kids here in Georgia. So a funny thing, I grew up thinking that I wanted to get involved in politics, weirdly enough. And I did, but I also grew up at a very young age. My grandmother kept me two places, the kitchen and the church. So on the one hand, she kept me learning how to kind of cook and do great things there, and then also in the church. And so I started preaching at a very young age. So the African American faith experience in America particularly has been one of resilience, but also the Black church is the nucleus of the community. So I had this big extended family in the church, but I also was exposed to a lot of the serious and important issues that faced our community as a young preacher. So as a kid, I kind of grew up knowing that there was a special responsibility I had to my community, to my future, to be thoughtful about my decision making. So as a kid, I was like, oh, I want to be a preacher, a politician, and weirdly enough, that's kind of exactly where I've landed. So I grew up looking at the things that came into the church and realizing that, you know, if I jump out there, I had this epiphany in college at Morehouse, or if I jump out there and I see someone drowning and I save them from drowning, and then I see another person drowning, I save them from drowning, and if I see two people and I jump out there and I save them from drowning, I eventually have to figure out what's throwing people in the river without a float or the ability to swim. And so I won't say I left the church, but I started focusing on the conditions in the world that break and send people to churches broken. Healthcare, prison industrial complex, these things that we see kind of the back end. And so I still am involved in ministry in other capacities, you know, preaching for family events and preaching for other events and speaking. But I look at policy work, engaging with the community, engaging with the conditions of the world as a ministry of sorts. Up until my sophomore year in high school, I was thinking I was going to go to Duke. Duke was where I wanted to be. My dad had went to NC Central. He did his ROTC at Duke. He was like, you know, I was a Duke fan. And then I discovered Morehouse. And I discovered Maynard Jackson, and we already knew Dr. King, but I discovered Samuel L. Jackson, Julian Bond, and all these other Morehouse men that had done incredible things. And I was like, wait a minute, there's a school for African American men that takes them and launches them into history, doing these great things. And then I kept, in that time period, coming across these men who were doing incredible things. And I was like, that's exactly what I want to do. So I never applied to any other school. I applied early action to Morehouse. I was accepted by November of my senior year, and so I knew that that's the place I wanted to go, and it has to date been the best decision I've ever made. And in fact, I graduated in May, and 2 weeks later moved to Atlanta to start work at Morehouse, to start school at Morehouse for their pre-freshman summer program, PSP, and I was there the entire summer and have not left Atlanta since. So shout out to Spark House 2013. I think we were the originators of that. We threw some really fun parties. Clarksville and Morehouse, class of 2013. One big functioning dysfunctional family. But I learned to be humble and be hungry. You approach every situation with a certain level of humility about what needs to be done, but you're hungry to be successful, you're hungry to work hard. So that's the first lesson. The second, for me, was the importance of nurturing your relationships and nurturing those folks around you. Making sure that you recognize that leadership is about inspiring good qualities in other people and not telling people what to do. And so we worked as students to make sure that we were nurturing and supporting each other, being great and believing in each other. And I carry that with me today. It's so important that leadership isn't telling people what to do as much as it is helping to inspire and nurture those qualities in other people. And I guess the third thing that stands out to me is that leadership means death to your ego, but not your self-esteem. That is such an important lesson in this day and age where our national leaders have oversized egos. It's so important to, again, be humble and recognize that what you don't know, but also have a certain self-esteem, a certain self-confidence that you're doing the right thing. Because if you have an ego, a large ego, being corrected or having someone that's smarter than you in the room might make you uncomfortable. But if you have a high sense of self-esteem but a low ego, you're willing to look at someone else who is able of doing something better than you, or able to move a project forward and say, I want to support and get behind this person. I want to be a person that's able to follow and lead at the same time, but not destroy my self-esteem. By the time I was a senior, I was a legislative aide for Representative Al Williams. I was SGA president. I was on the board of trustees for Morehouse. I was the national student ambassador for men and violence against women, so I was helping to deliberately and actively take on sexual assault and domestic violence at Morehouse and in the AUC, helping to organize projects like Denim Day. And I had forgotten something that I think a lot of leaders forget, which is the importance of self-care and carving out a space for yourself. I was pouring myself out everywhere I could. At the time, it was a re-election of President Obama. Morehouse was going through a leadership change, so I had helped select the incoming president, or at least had been on the task force to select him. And so by the time I'd graduated, I'd been on a panel, and one of my mentors, Jamal Simmons, who worked at the Raven Group, I reached out to him about potentially interning with them, and I decided that, I want to move to DC and get invested in things going on in DC and see, I had spent 2 sessions at the Georgia General Assembly, helping to work on things like Hope Scholarship, as a student activist, defeat the campus carry bill, as it was back then, and involved in a bunch of different policy stuff. And I said, okay, I want to see what some federal work looks like. So I worked at the Raven Group. So again, 2 weeks after leaving Morehouse, went home. My fiance and I, my then girlfriend, now fiance, and I drove to Florida, spent some time with my family, and then I moved to DC and worked at the Raven Group. And the Raven Group is a minority consulting firm founded by former Assistant Attorney General Robert Raven. Brilliant mind. This man is a brilliant mind. He is an incredible person to follow, and they support a number of different projects nationally, advancing social justice causes, helping to add structure and funding and messaging and communications. It's an incredible group of talented people that concentrate their efforts on good work. So after I left DC, I went back and I worked for a man named Jason Carter. He's a state senator, he's a good friend of mine, who campaigned for governor of Georgia, looking to make, with a view of education as economic development, making sure that Georgia was investing in its people, making sure that we took care of people's health care, and expanded Medicaid and was supportive of that. But someone that is dedicated first on a personal level to his wife and his kids, and which was a great example for me as a person that looks himself, eventually getting into politics. He was a great example of that kind of everybody's family, but I'm taking care of my wife and kids. And then also a compassionate care for the people of Georgia. So in that, I was his traveling chief of staff for the campaign, which was a fancy way of saying body man. So my main job was to keep him on time and upright, make sure he didn't pass out, make sure that he didn't, got to places on time. He never passed out, but we were always late. So in that campaign experience, I got a chance to travel to every corner of the state, literally, meet incredible amount of people who are doing wonderful things, a diverse coalition that was multiracial, multi-ethnic, multiple parties, just people who were concerned about putting the state in the right direction. I guess one of the most memorable experiences was a rally we had in, I think it was in Columbus. And so in Columbus, we were having a rally. It was nearing the campaign, the election. So we were on a bus tour. And so I am responsible of giving directions to Congressman Sanford Bishop from the 2nd Congressional District of Georgia, Congressman John Lewis from the 5th Congressional District, a few key pastors in the area, President Jimmy Carter, his wife Rosalind, Jason, and a bunch of the other leadership, like Carolyn Hughley, who's the minority whip in the Georgia General Assembly. They're all in the room, and I've got to give them the tick-tock of how things are going to go, who's going to do what, who's going to go where we're going to go. And the room is looking at me. And so I'm looking at the icons. Like, these are people that I've read about. These are people that, if you think back to me growing up in Hinesville, South Georgia, these are people that I looked at and heard about. And now, 2.5 years after graduating Morehouse, 6 years or so from leaving Hinesville, I'm looking at history, and they're all looking at me for directions. It was mind-blowing. So I say first thing would be get involved in issues that you care about. Figure out the thing that makes you mad as hell, or that thing that moves you, and get involved with it. First, get informed about it substantively. Get engaged with your community or community-based organizations, other nonprofits. Aside from the politics stuff, politics is a service. Serve your community. Help the kids in your community. If it's seniors, help seniors. Get involved in your community and engage with people. The electoral politics stuff will be perpetual, but I'm in the business of actually helping people and getting involved in helping people first. And then once you got that part, you got informed, you know who you want to help, why you want to help them, then start engaging with the kind of political parts of it and getting involved with your party and organizing and being out there in the field and knocking on doors and telling people that you support particular candidates. Get out there and do those things. To my generation, I just really think that, we're exactly what the world needs. We're exactly what the world needs. I want to see a country that is more equitable, where everybody says, I got a shot at a good job. I'm not burdened down with bills or taxes. My kids have an opportunity, their kids have an opportunity to get a world-class education and do and be incredible, that they're able to meet their own potential.
Thank you guys for tuning in to today's episode. As we are on this break for this season, I hope that you guys continue to interact and follow us on social media, on Twitter and Facebook at Be Hopeful People, our website at BeHopefulPeople.com, as well as on SoundCloud. I'm working to turn every single interview that I've done in season 1 into a podcast that you can listen to wherever you want on your phone. Once again, it's been an honor to highlight these stories, and I hope that you will join us again on September 14th for our very first episode of season 2 with Kevin Cavall. Have a great summer, and we'll see you back next season.